And hello there. Hey, I was told I had to start off with a bad, move over a little bit, start off with a bad dad joke. So, let's see here. Does anybody know Forrest Gump's favorite password? I'll wait like 5 seconds, see if anybody gets this one. Hello, Jose. All right, done. Not waiting anymore. Forrest Gump's favorite password is 141. Huh? Yeah? Is that a good dad joke? Woody says Jenny. I guess that's a good one too, but 141 is a lot better. Yeah. All right, better throw on some deodorant while you're at it to be safe. Yep, I'm good. I threw on my sweatshirt, and I do want to say something about that. I'm actually wearing a sweatshirt, and not that I'm stripping for everybody. Although if people want to pay me to strip, if that type of person, we can talk later. But anyways, these sweatshirts and this shirt and whatnot, a couple people, actually some people down here below, I'm not going to mention names because it goes the whole time, but there's some people down here that are part of my Patreon. Some of the people on the higher levels get sent to them. I have nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with when they do it. I don't know if it's gone out or not. If it has or has not, let me know. Basically, it's on the upper 2 tiers I have on there. I have a lower 2 tiers that don't have swag to come out of them, just because the amount that they charge to the account just makes it impossible to pay for the swag, because it basically comes out of what comes in. So I just want to clear that real quick. And then I was going to start with a gotcha, because who was it? Was it Renee? Somebody wanted a gotcha. Who wanted a gotcha? Let's see here. Oh, Golden Jaguar. He's a welcome member. Thank you, Golden Jaguar. Thank you, my friend. Nice to see that you're here. I'm kind of surprised you're here. I know you've been a little bit more lively lately, but I know you're extremely busy. So just you being here is enough for me. But actually, just any of you guys being here is enough for me, because I have fun doing this. It's one of those things that kind of help out with my anxiety. Because honestly, doing live videos, because that's the way I record everything, is kind of stressful. I don't cut and edit things, so I mess something up, I know I'm going back an hour and a half to re-record it. It's been probably maybe 4 or 5 times I've actually cut something and done something else. But the reason I do that is I figure, and this is kind of an opening statement to everything, I figure if I mess something up, there's a chance that somebody else is going to mess something up, and I tend to mess everything up, so hopefully I catch all those gotchas during the videos. But getting back to the original question, one of the first questions I had on here was talking about some of my gotchas. So I recently just had a gotcha on my printer, and I don't know if anybody saw my quick short with the, somebody called the Voron police, or somebody called the 3D police. Basically, I turned my stealth burner lights into police lights, and we'll roll into that in a second. I'll move over to the other camera. But basically my lights went all wonky. The colors were all over the place. I couldn't change the colors. Heck, I have 3 NeoPixels on there like any other stealth burner normally does. And one would be purple, one would be green, one would be blue, and I didn't have them set for different colors. So I didn't know what was going on. So there was a gotcha there. And let me get to the other camera real quick. And I'm probably gonna pick the wrong one, because I'm dealing with a different section here in my OBS. I think it's this one. I got the right one. And let me pull this forward for us, just so we're all in the same spot here. Let's home this thing first. So the white sheet of paper that's on there is just so things show up a little bit better. There's a lot of bright lights on right now. That's what makes my video clear. I do not have $40,000 cameras or anything like that. But I am embarrassed to say how much I've spent on my cameras comparatively to, you know, how many viewers I have. But it's been fun, and I like having cameras. So there you go, right? A means to an end. So right now, let's go ahead and lower that a little bit. I thought I just seen it. All right, let's home the whole thing. Okay. And let's look at the, what we have here. Oh, we haven't made, Rich made it. Awesome, Rich. Actually, let's do a rundown here if everybody's here. Let's do the people that were here first, because those people and everybody else, but those people in particular are awesome. Dune591, thank you for being here. I wrote you guys a little bit of a note, but I just want to give you guys a shout out because you are here. Incredible DIY, Jose Fiera. Jose, I don't know where you find the time, but every single stream I ever watch, you're on. I don't know how many computers you have going. But you are incredible, but not quite as incredible as Incredible DIY. See how I did that? DIY, let's see here, get the party started early. If you want to send me some beer, that's cool. It looks like we got some, or is that root beer? We'll call it root beer, right? Because we're not talking about alcohol in this thing, because alcohol is something we don't talk about in these things. If you don't do YouTube videos, you'll understand why if you look at policies. So let's see here. I have Woody. Woody's here. And someday, Woody, you're going to tell me how to pronounce your actual name that you have on. I know what it is, but it's unpronounceable, my friend. So Woody, it is. And then some guy named Build a Basement's here. Heard of him before. Rumba is here. That's cool. 3D Stubrel. I don't know who you are, but it looks like you're pretty new. I don't know if you've been on the streams before, but welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're new here, this is kind of what it is. It's kind of just a live hangout, chill and chat. Everybody kind of talks, so make sure you throw some stuff up in comments. I go over some things I've been working with in the past week or so, so glad to see you here. If I missed you before, I apologize, but yeah. Renee Wilson's here, awesome, great. And let's see here, who else? We already talked to Golden Jaguar. We already talked to Incredible. DBR it. Yes, build review. We'll talk about that a little bit. Not a problem there. I won't go too in depth. That will actually come once everything's all done. I apologize for how slow my build videos are, but I take my time. What can I say? Golden Jaguar saying hello all, awesome. And let's see here. First layer, Rich, we talked about you already. And yeah. Cool, so I caught up with everybody. All right, we've actually honed the printer now, so we're ready to work with that a little bit, and we're talking about a gotcha, because that's what people want to hear. They want to hear the gotcha. So let's do this. So on my printer right now, and I'm going to actually dim the lights here, and I apologize, it's going to get dark here for a second. But I want you guys to see this because I think this is important because I think it's something that a lot of people run into. I was able to find some information about it, but it did take some digging, and I think possibly Rich is having a similar issue, but has not facilitated a resolution to that issue yet because it's not a top priority. But right now we're looking at a purple light here, relatively purple, pink, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what the camera does. Incredible DIY, thank you. Special beverage money, awesome. I'll use that very soon. Okay, thank you. Again, nobody really needs to throw anything in the pot. If you decide to, that's awesome too, but I do appreciate all of you just for being here, all right? So anyways, we got lights. Hope you guys can see that. I've dimmed the lights in the rooms so you guys can see it and put a white piece of paper down, and this is a gotcha. So this gotcha is specifically about the NeoPixels, specifically about the control circuitry to them, and an issue that happens to quite a few folks after I've done some research. So if I currently go and I change that pinkish purplish light to a blue, it will turn to blue. If I turn it to green, it will turn to green. If I turn it to red, it will turn to red. And if I want to run my super special Voron police mode, I get that too. And then something else, I actually started uploading some files to my Git. It's not great yet, but some of the stuff is up there now, and I'll throw that in comments down below eventually when I get this video up. But anyways, everything works properly, okay? And that's the way it's supposed to work. But here's the gotcha. And I'm gonna turn the lights back on so I can show you. Because my lights were not working properly yesterday, last night specifically, and I didn't know why. And I went through the code, and I went through everything, and I just couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. So, oop, that's down, this is up. So right now, and we'll zoom in a little bit here. This does not look good, right? What I have there is a 270 ohm resistor, but it turns out in a lot of cases you need to have, or eventually need to have, and I haven't done enough research to tell exactly the reasons behind it. Some people say it's interference, and it might very well be, but this is happening just with the printer sitting here statically, so I don't know if it's interference or not. I find it kind of difficult to believe it's that. But without that resistor, which I'm going to take it out right now, I'm going to show you. Right now, it's Mickey Moused in there. It's not great, but I wanted to leave it that way so I can show you in and out. And eventually, I'm going to put it in line so it's there permanently. But if I take that out and and I hook it back up the way it should be, and my tap's not working right now, which is why I couldn't home it. That makes sense. So I'm gonna take that away, and I'm gonna plug that back in the way it should be. And we'll do that right there. And I'll take Mr. Resistor here, this guy. I don't know if he's showing up or not. And we'll zoom this back out. Whoop, sorry for the bumpy cam here, and then I'm going to go ahead and dim the lights again. And this is a gotcha. Somebody asked for a gotcha. This is a gotcha. This is an electronic gotcha, not a mechanical gotcha, because we know there's a bunch of those too. But now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do my Voron police mode again and take a look. It's working, which it was not yesterday. Interesting. Oh, there we go. There was a green there. So I don't know if you guys caught that, but the colors aren't always correct. Nothing changed, but now there's a green in there randomly. Yep, it turned green. So basically, what happens is the control to the NeoPixels it gets jumbled up a little bit. I had no individual control over individual NeoPixels and things like that. And in the end of it, all that was required to fix it was a single resistor. This is a 270, but I'm told, based on reading, that a 200 to 300 ohm resistor will work just fine. I'm gonna wind up putting this in line with that control wire going to my NeoPixels. But that is a gotcha, and that's our first gotcha for today, because somebody wanted one. I'm gonna catch up here real quick with the chat. That's a professional. Let me go back up a little bit here. Let's see here. I got to play with some chargers with my Maserati. All right, good. I'm not sure what that has to do with me, but I didn't know my rainbow barfed. Yes, my rainbow barf did barf. Where is it? Here it is. Here's some rainbow barf. So this did not burn out or break because of anything it was at fault for, although a lot of people are having issues putting this in because it's slightly thicker on the back end because of the solder points to it. And I think what happens is they get cold, or they are cold, and they're not quite as good as they could be, and they come off, and you shear one of these off and you have an issue. So mine actually was because I mistakenly, totally not knowing that I was hooking up 24 volts to it, but I wound up throwing 24 volts at this. We all make mistakes, right? Quick tip about solder, because I was just talking to some of our technicians at one of our offices that do repairs on electronics. It's pretty much what they do all the time. But they were telling me that new solder, you know, the new silver-based solders and things like that, one of the things that they're seeing with the equipment that they work on is that back when there was a lot more lead in solder, which isn't as healthy and safe as, you know, what they do now with tin and silver, but it was more malleable. So parts that had shock that happened to them didn't break as often, because those electronic connections, those solder points, were actually a little bit more fluid. Not really fluid, but not so easy to snap off. But that's a side shot. Anyways, so back over to here. Let's see here. Waste Simpson upside down and reverse. Try it. Yeah, I know it is, but you can't say it. Let's see here. Let's chat it up. Renee Wilson, awesome. Let's see. Professional. Yep, I know. I told you why it was like that. Did you have to do the exact type of resistor, color correct all the time to be the correct color? So yes, that the type of resistor has to be, from what I understand, between a 200 and 300. That was a 270. It was just one of the first ones I found. Another thing somebody asked about, I don't think today in the chat, but sent me an email, is parts that you should have on hand and things like that. And this is kind of a stretch for us printer folks, but if you are a maker or somebody that likes to make stuff in general, I suggest, one, that you keep a card like this, unless you memorized all of them. But there are phone apps and you can go online and get them. But I bought a long time ago a huge lot of resistors that go from, I don't even know, you know, like maybe an ohm or two all the way up to, you know, 100K ohms or something. So I have a whole bin, and I don't know if it's gonna show up, but I have a whole bin full of resistors. So if I need something, I can kind of find something relatively quickly. I left them in the bags because the bags have stickers on them. Tell me what the ohm rating is on those. Because I will tell you, with my aging eyes, it is awful hard to see those little lines, which actually brings me into another thing. Since I'm being a little bit comical and people like dad jokes, another thing that I think everybody over the age of maybe 40 should seriously consider getting, even if they don't want to admit it, but that is a good set of readers. If you're working on a printer and you're doing crimping or soldering or anything like that, I will tell you what, I don't wear glasses in my day-to-day life, and you know, normally I wouldn't see it, but here's what you do. You grab your cell phone, okay? Go to any store that sells anything like readers, whether it be a convenience store or a drugstore or Walmart, Target, whatever you got. Go into one of those stores, pull out your phone. Take your phone up, hold it up. Just put it on your home screen, doesn't matter. Home screen like that. And then put a pair of readers on. And if it just looks like you went from analog TV to HD, get some readers. Now, here comes the dad joke. If you're over 45 or close to it, I suggest not only do you get a pair of readers, but you get 2 pair of readers, because you're always going to be looking for one of them. That's what happens at 45 versus 40. Ah, good joke, right? Small. All right, so let's see here. Brittle is the word you look for. Brittle is definitely the word I'm looking for. Fragile, brittle. It breaks too easy. We'll say that. Phonics lessons. Yeah, I like cozy. 3.25 glass. I'm doing fine. Works like crimping pins. Yes, very good. I have 1.25s and 2s. I get over that and my eyes start to get a little wonky. I start to feel like I'm drunk or something bad there. I'm wearing Jose Fiera, I'm wearing reading glasses to minute detail work. Yes, I'm nearsighted, so I take my glasses off when I look at things close up. Hey, you do what you gotta do. You're not old yet, that's true. I do not feel old, but you know, age has a funny way of creeping up on you in odd ways that you wouldn't expect. And one of those things are your eyesight, because it slowly degrades and you don't even realize it. So I say take out your cell phone, take a look at it. Even if you could normally read it, put some readers on. If it looks like it just went to HD on you, buy some readers. So yeah, so primarily I had somebody else on here that that had hit me up about connectors and what connectors are used when basically doing some of the modifications I had. And I've been thinking about it today. I haven't had enough time to do some research. It was something that somebody asked me today. So, you know, I'm going to take the easy road out on that one. And the easy road out is basically, if you go and look at, if you go and look at, you know, what a build has for connectors, if you go look at a BOM for original Voron or anything like that, it is my personal thought that you should probably have spare parts for nearly everything. It does multiple things. One, it allows you to repair anything that breaks. 2 is it gives you a foothold on building your next printer. And 3, it gives you an opportunity to buy things that you may need if you decide to build something else. So when I buy parts, I tend to buy bins, especially when they're small parts. I buy bins of small parts. These right here are JST connectors. I forget which ones they are specifically, because the other thing I keep in mind is a lot of these connectors have multiple series. You know, usually there's different widths in the pins, or there's different sizes in the connectors. We get your JSTs, let's see, JST SMs, JST XHPs, JST PHs. You got your microfit 3s. That's pretty much the biggest portion of them all that I tend to see. And the microfits are kind of hit or miss, and they tend to be on the stepper motors, but not all stepper motors have them. Some of them do, some don't. So that's something you want to look at. To put those on specifically, you have 2 options. And again, I know some people aren't overly interested in this, but I'm mentioning it because somebody asked. Option A, actually I'll do bigger to larger. Option A is a simple pair of crimpers. These are IWIS or IWIS. Anyways, these basically will do a multitude, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 different sizes right there in the end. So A lot of people don't like these, and a lot of people do like these. I will tell you, for some crimps, I prefer these, and some I do not. The good thing about using these, especially when you first start out, is they allow you to crimp to the wire first. So basically your metal to metal for your crimp to your wire, and then crimp to your shielding or your outer protective layer of the wire, the plastic of the wire, for your second crimp. And what that does, it allows you to test your crimp. So if you crimp both your wire and the outside of the wire at the same time, you're not really, I mean, you can be relatively sure, but you can't be 100% sure that you crimp both the outside and the inside equally. If you crimp with a single crimp where you got to crimp things twice, you can crimp your metal first, your wire, and give it a good, tug, do your test, and then crimp your outside of it, and you know you got a good one. Usually I go to these, especially if I'm working with really small ones, small crimps, for instance, some of these JST connectors, because it's hard to kind of see them when you get to these thicker things. But this is the other set. This is a ratcheting set. These don't do quite as many different types of crimps, but what these allow you to do is the dies on them, the teeth on them, the dies are offset. So they do both the inner and the outer at the same time, which means it saves you about half the time. And if the wire you're using is able to, if the connector in the wire you're using, or the crimp in the wire you're using, the pin, you're able to use something like this, and you're comfortable and you're good at doing what you're doing, these actually, I think, provide a better overall crimp. They usually look a little bit better in the end because you're doing everything at one time. So, yeah, so for connectors, I would look at the BOM for the original Voron. I would try to have those connectors that are listed in the BOM. You're gonna find that you can buy them on Amazon or AliExpress and places like that, or even KB3D, possibly Fabrico. And usually they come in kits, because otherwise you're gonna wind up buying, nobody wants to ship you little pins all the time. So kits usually come with 200, 300, 400 parts at a time. Most of them you're not gonna use, but you're better off paying $8 for 400 than paying $6 for 5. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Back over to here. Let's see here. Wearing green glasses. Yeah, Jet. I use 3.25 so I don't walk into walls. I'm so old. My first printer was Play-Doh. That makes you the first printer. Play-Doh was a filament. Rich is so old he forgot how a printer worked, I guess. I'm just messing with Rich. I like to mess with Rich. It goes back and forth. It reciprocates, I hope. Let's see here. Incredible DIY builder. Check out your iOS JST connection. It works great like the other wire cutter looking one that you got. Cool. I will check that out. Thank you for the pin info. Yeah, and we'll talk more. I can give you more specifics. I just haven't had enough time to put together something. I mean, it was a couple hours ago. I had to go to my kid's basketball game and things like that. That was kind of fun. But you're right to ask, because your kit will come with some additional parts too, like your LDO kit. 9 times out of 10, you'll have the parts you need in there to do some different things. I still have some little baggies back behind me of things I haven't used that came with the LDO kit. That's one of the good things about LDO, is they do tend to give you some extra parts. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about that, but if you do plan, a couple days in advance or a week in advance, you can kind of judge what you're going to be doing. The other thing is to use the resources of the people you're buying things from. Hector and Chris, Hector at Fabrico, Chris at KB3D, they know their products really well. And I know there are dozens of other vendors out there, but pro tip, if you are working with somebody that's selling you 3D printed parts and you want to get into the hobby, kind of as a root hobby for you, make sure whoever you're buying things from has a phone number, and when you call that number, you talk to somebody. And when you have that conversation, if you choose to, you don't have to, but if you choose to, that person on the other side of the phone is relatively interested in what you're doing. That is a good, surefire sign that they'll be there for you when you have an issue. So, and that goes across for everything, right? You guys know that. Let's see here. Sounds like one of each kit, KB3 would be in order. Yeah, and I'd be willing to bet if you told Chris, hey, I think I need one of each kit, if you try to do that and tell him what you're doing, and he might tell you, you don't need that for a 2.4, or you don't need that for a Trident, or you don't, even though most of the parts are the same, they know. They really do know. And, probably work something out for you if you're buying a bunch of stuff like that, the little parts, because they're cheap for them to ship. All right. So we talked about that gotcha. And I can't really think of too many other gotchas on this particular build. I do have actually one more that I'll hit on real quick because it's some parts I bought. It's a second 2.4 I built, and you know, the gotchas usually are the small things that you have to look at twice. You know, everybody's going to tell you to, when you look through a build manual for a printer, is to basically read through the manual once and then start building. After you do that, you know, or once or twice and then start building. If you're anything like me, that's pointless, because the first time you look through it, you don't have anything physical for you. I mean, you're looking at pictures, yeah, that's cool. This is why I want to build it, because it looks cool to build. It's not until you get the parts in front of you. What I would suggest is you find yourself a really big area and break things into different sections. Now, an LDO kit's going to come with separate boxes. They're going to come with separate boxes that look like these, and basically they're going to be labeled pretty nicely. But even though they're and this one actually says beta on it, that doesn't tell you anything, right? Even though they're labeled like that, sometimes you're going to want to take parts out of one box that you may not be getting into right away, and have them available for you when you're doing your build. So that's when I take out the manual. Take out the manual, pull out your parts aside. What I would suggest if you're building a printer for the first time is you get all your frame parts, all your extrusions, all your you know, all your connection equipment. When I say that, I mean your screws. And I'm reaching over here to get my little holders here. You know, print yourself off. If you have a printer, print yourself off some of these or something similar to these. A couple of people have asked me for the file for those. I've sent them over to them. They're over on printables.com. You can get them there. And while I'm thinking about sending people to places, Rich, if you don't mind, Discord. I still have not set up my bot, so but yeah, go ahead and store Discord on there, Rich, if you have a moment. But anyways, yeah, get yourself ready, build it in steps, build your frame first. Your next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to, after your frame, I'm trying to remember what the steps were. I'd probably, if I was going to do it without the manual, I'm just working off the top of my head, I'd probably start working on the gantry too, because that's where the rest of your extrusions are. And then it would be basically starting to work on your Z motion, basically your motors, start building out your motors for basically your base, and then on top of that. I guess don't be afraid to take things apart if you're not 100% sure to put together properly. And the reason I say that, it's going to be a lot easier to take something apart when you're building it versus when it's on the printer. Once it's on the printer, you are probably going to have to remove other things to work on something that's incorrect. So yeah, so there's that. So in terms of gotcha and parts, one of the things I did on this build that I hadn't done before is I'm doing a clipper screen. It's not I was going to, or I'm going to. I am doing a clipper screen, and the screen I decided to go with is this guy right here. This is the Waveshare 5.5 inch. The box came in, screen right there. It's a Waveshare 5.5 inch screen. It's really nice. It's a AOLED, organic LED unit. Touch. It'll do up to 5 touch at the same time, which I can't even fit 5 touches on the same time in there. But here's the gotcha on this one. I have the kit. I printed off the mounting hardware in this, but the issue is that the mounting or the connection points for this, and this is something I didn't know, and I mean, I could have done research and I probably would have figured it out, but it's a lot harder to do that until you physically have the part in front of you. But the connection points on this thing, let me switch my camera real quick. Nope, wrong one. So the connection ports on this thing actually face away from it as opposed towards the back. So when installing it on the printer, you kind of have limited space to work with everything, because, you know, they don't give you a lot of room. Excuse me. So I wound up having to buy, after the fact, these ribbon cable. This is a ribbon cable USB cable. Let's see if I can get on frame. So it's got the micro USB on one side, it's got the USB Type A on the other. And I had to do that so I could just get enough space to actually connect this in, which is one of the reasons why it's not on the printer yet. And this is the HDMI version. This has a male to female HDMI cable that's also on a ribbon, and that goes like that. And that allows me to be able to use it the way I wanted to. But you know what? I wouldn't have known that offhand. Frankly, this came with some adapters, so you could basically mount it to Raspberry Pi. You can see on here it has connection points. These four right here towards the center are meant so you could basically use this as almost like a hat. It's not quite a hat because it doesn't use the I/O pins, but basically you connect it, screw it up with your Raspberry Pi. It came with standoffs or anything like that, and it came with a male-to-male plug to plug it into the Raspberry Pi and a little USB cable. But for what we're using it for, it didn't come with the parts I needed to do that. So that goes back to looking for pins. You know, no matter how much you pre-plan for things, you're always going to wind up with some things that that you're not going to have, and you're gonna have to wait. You have to wait, and you'll find other things to do while you're waiting, or you'll do more research while you're waiting. All right, let's see here. Tell them about my gotcha. Woody's gotcha. What was Woody's gotcha? Woody, you've had a lot of gotchas as we've gone along here, my friend. I've had a lot of people that burnt a lot of stuff up, and honestly, it's almost like a couple pails of paint all mixing in a big 5-gallon bucket. So if you got a gotcha, if you just give me a little snippet to remember something, if we've talked, you know, offline, email or whatever, that goes for you too, Woody, and I'll jump all over it, because once my head gets spinning, I'll remember it. Then immediately getting it, jump on Discord with Golden first there. Yes, possibly. I don't know if everybody else will be there, but I will jump over there for a few, and we can talk. I really do enjoy being able to have the two-way conversation. Let's see here, and then we get some parts. We don't need manuals, as I say with evidence that I had a manual, was using it in my build. Don't tell the ladies. We don't need manuals, as I say with evidence I had a manual I was using for my build. Okay. Was that for me doing crimpers? I got pins and connectors for the 2.4 where I'm ignorant and lacking. Yeah, so Ron, I forget, are you self-sourcing? There are different people self-sourcing. So yeah, okay, Woody, I got you. I'm looking down. Rich, thank you for that. If you get screen solution that can allow for you to use the HDMI cable, go big and hook up a big screen TV. You know, I thought about doing that as a joke. The problem with that is big screen TV doesn't have touch. But you can run clipper screen on here or anything. So you could take the HDMI output out of your Raspberry Pi and hook it up to a 55-inch TV if you wanted to. You know, that'd be kind of a fun thing to do. I could picture, you know, in a far-off land where YouTube pays, you know, thousands upon thousands of dollars, it'd be kind of cool to have a scene with, you know, 4 or 5 nice built printers and then big 55-inch screen in the middle of them with different inputs for different printers, or maybe somehow rotating those. That'd be cool. Maybe someday, right? The other week when we sent you some pictures of our builds, don't need manuals. That's not clicking with me, but I'm gonna jump over to Woody. So Woody specifically is a gotcha for Woody. Woody was following, and I'll tell you what, no one has followed a manual more precisely than Woody, I don't believe. I mean, I'm not there with him, but based on our conversations, he's been pretty precise on what he does. 2 reasons. One is he doesn't want to fail, and 2 is the type of person he is. But sometimes documentation isn't exact. Sometimes revisions happen before revisions happen, if you know what I'm getting at. And sometimes hardware gets revised quicker than the literature, the documentation for it. So Woody is I'm kind of a little dad joke. Woody is solely to blame for the lack of Raspberry Pis in North America as well as the rest of the world. Because of the quantity of them, he decided to turn into piles of mush by burning out the 5-volt regulators on them. If you're upset about the fact that you haven't been able to get any Raspberry Pis, you can let Woody know about that. Be kind, because I'm just joking, but Woody wound up burning out, I think, 2 Raspberry Pis, 2, 3 Bs, and then finally was 4. He was so worried about it, he decided to do things step by step. We did some things and it was working out decently, but what was happening is the connection that he was using between the Raspberry Pi and I believe it was the MCU, and you're gonna have to correct me, Woody, if I'm wrong, but that was basically flipped over. So basically he was grounding out a 5-volt pin on his Raspberry Pi inadvertently, which it did not like very much. You know, it's really picky about that type of stuff, and pretty much destroying them. Oh, the screen. Okay, the screen that he was hooking up to it, which was part of the LDO revision 4, I believe, kit, because it comes with a small touchscreen now. And basically the ribbon cable is backwards, so he was saying ground to a 5-volt pin, which instantly, again, was killing his Raspberry Pis. You know, he went over the literature over and over again, the manual from LDO, everything, kept on looking at it, and could not see an issue. And it wasn't until he basically did a little bit more searching, he was plugging away at it, and he finally found that ground was going directly to that 5-volt pin. And then he basically notified them, and I don't know, Woody, you'll have to let us know here in the chat if they updated that or not. So, all right, chat's done for a second. I want to talk about something else real quick. I just put out a video a couple days ago, and part of this video is going to be me running some testing. So I have never been overly big on the idea of CNC or machined parts for our Voron printers. And part of that is I was always under the impression, understanding that, you know, we build them with ABS parts or ASA parts because the flex, you know, the flex is good. Also, it adds dampening. So, you know, I was talking to some guys the other day and we were talking about how building a wood printer would be funny. But, you know, the joke was kind of, and I told him, I said, hey, if you were able to build a wood printer that, you know, was solid, it would actually work really well because wood is inert. It doesn't vibrate all that much comparatively to aluminum and other materials that we actually build our printers out of. So you probably wouldn't have to run input shaper and things like that. So, you know, when you go to CNC parts on a printer and you build something that has aluminum extrusions and then aluminum parts that are normally made out of plastic, excuse me again, you're getting away from the fact that a lot of those parts are able to kind of suppress some of those vibrations through the course of the machine. And that didn't sound like a good idea to me. So I still haven't done that. I'm still interested now because so many people are asking about it. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that people don't want to deal with printing parts, which is kind of awkward and odd because you are building a 3D printer. So it just makes sense to print parts. But there's one part in particular that I think does well with CNC, and that's this guy right here. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from this manufacturer. This is Chaotic Labs, but this is the Chaotic Labs CNC Tap. And again, like everything else in this industry, there are revisions of this. This is the revision I have. There's there's some mods that you can put on this and things like that. But I want to do it the way it is right now. I did a quick, you know, first look at this. We went ahead and we cleaned out the rail, we cleaned out the carriage, we re-lubed it and everything like that. But it's a pretty interesting thing. The reason why I think that this makes sense is because of the thickness of the plastic of the original tap. Based on how it's how you manufacture that tap is pretty difficult. You're asking a lot for a couple millimeters, you know, probably 3 to 5 millimeters of ABS or ASA to not flex. And I think there's a noticeable and notable amount of deflection on the tap when you use it. I think it works, so I think it's fine, but I'm hopeful that maybe this is just slightly better. And I have said, and I did say it in the video, that this is not really a tap per se. It has the same, you know, function, but there's a lot of differences. So I won't go into that right now because I did in the other video. So if you do want to see more about this in particular, you can go and look at the other video. My next video is going to be putting this on and actually doing a final of the testing of this, because today we're going to run tests with the normal tap in the background while I'm talking. But I want to compare this eventually to the tap that's on my printer right now, which is completely functional, completely working fine. I can quad gantry level, I can do all those things and it works just fine. But I want to see if that's more precise, and if so, how much more precise, or is it less precise? I don't know. I will tell you that this is almost half the weight of the tap that's on my printer right now. And when I first heard that, I thought it was BS. You know, I didn't believe it. I couldn't conceivably figure out why. And then somebody told me it's because they're using an MGN 7 rail inside this instead of the 9, and that makes sense. But to the best of my knowledge, you know, notably an MGN 7 does not have the preload on it that you would see on a 9 or a 12, and that's why you see more of those as opposed to 7s on these printers. The 7s notably tend to have more slop on them. But this one is specifically loaded for this manufacturer for this particular function. It's a Highwind, so it's pretty decent. So yeah, we'll see what we come up with that. So we're gonna catch back up on that over there with chat, and then I'm going to start this up, and then I got some other things we can chat about, hang out, and then hopefully you guys start throwing some more stuff on there for us to talk about. So gonna start that up. We'll go over to that camera real quick. I'm gonna do my homing first, and let's see here. I always pick the wrong one. All right, we'll zoom out of this. So in the background, I'm gonna run that. I have a spreadsheet that I've been working with, if I can find it. Where is my spreadsheet? Hold on here. There it is. All right, so basically what I'm going to wind up doing here is I'm going to be running my standard tap, cold bed, cold nozzle. I'm gonna run 5 tests of 30 samples each. And then basically from there, if I can put that where I want it, from there, I'm going to basically then do a 70-degree bed and then a 200-degree nozzle. Again, 5 samples of that, and that will be that for this normal tap. And I know it's not a ton of samples, but I'm just looking for, as I say, a non-scientific version of a test to do this. So let's go ahead and start that while I'm talking. And I'm doing this, by the way, directly on the bed without a print surface on it. I am not on the magnet nor the screw. I am off of that, so I want to make sure 100% here. Yes, I'm off of that. So I thought this would be the most exact way of testing this, would be directly on the bed. It's probably not great for the nozzle, so I don't suggest people go and do this because I'm just basically hitting against it. But it's not the worst thing you could do to a nozzle. This also does not have my kinematics bed on it right now. I'm taking all those things out of it, which is part of the reason why in a previous video I had taken that off, is to do some of this testing. So we're gonna start this testing in the background while we go, and then let that go for a moment, and then pick up the chat. And Renee, I know I don't have to, but I have to catch back up. Work calls. Oh, so you're paying me to leave. That's interesting. Let's make that the new thing. If you have to leave, you have to give me, you have to throw some money in. No, I appreciate it, Renee. Thank you. We'll talk soon. You know, a lot of these people are people I talk to in email and other ways too. So again, thank you. I'm humbled that people like to watch this stuff, even though I like to watch it too. Let's see here. Lounge open in Discord. Thanks, Rich, for that. Rumbo LDO kit. LDO kit comes with a lot of stuff. The other week when you sent out some pictures of other builds, manuals, yes, I remember that. We catch back up here. Remember, I had the manual on one of the, oh yes, you printed off the manual. I remember now. Thank you. It took me an extra second. Yes, that's not a bad idea. I'd say anybody that is working with a single screen on a computer, leave that screen available so you can do your research. And if you have a printer handy, go ahead and print off the manual. You're going to kill a 100th of a tree or something, but it might be worth it. Plus, you can make notes on the paperwork a lot easier than you could on a computer. So I see other people using tablets and stuff, but that's an option too. Yes, I remember that now. Let's see here. now documenting LDO documentation thanks to my wonderful experience. So Woody, good for you. Kind of impressive they listened that quickly, actually, in all honesty. Have you thought of building a 3D scanner? I have not thought about building a 3D scanner. I still got to build my macro camera with a 4K camera. I have thought about building a laser engraver. I've also thought about building a CNC, a router mount CNC unit so I can use it in the garage to build more things, because I do have other hobbies which that would be helpful with. A 3D scanner would be interesting too. There's a lot right now happening with software. I just saw that there's everybody's talking about AI, and I hate to talk about it because it's just like all over the news. But somebody is currently working with like a GPT model thing where you can take a picture of something and basically, without even taking 30 or 40 or 100 or 13,000 pictures, you can take 1 or 2 pictures of an item or an object, and it will 3D model it and actually spit out a step file or an STL file. So there's so much happening with that. I don't know how much we're actually going to need eventually here in the next year or two to do a 3D scan. I think it's going to come down to maybe a half dozen or less pictures with a cell phone camera with a decent contrasting background, and I think you're going to be able to basically convert anything to whatever you want. It's just going to come down to the size at that point. Let's see here. The first chaotic lab releases had the experience slop with the MGN7. The Voron guys experienced it and went for a bigger rail. I guess a specifically ordered Highwind solves this. Interesting to see how it does. Yes, I did read that. I spent some time on their Discord before I actually bought anything. I did buy that unit. Actually, I bought it from Fabrico because KB3D didn't have it. I actually consulted with Chris at KB3D. I hope I'm not stepping on any toes here, but he wasn't big on it yet, I guess is the best way to put it. He's still weighing it out to see how well it does. He was a little worried about carrying it because of all the issues that had happened, which is why I, again, spent some time on Discord. Hector at Fabrico had it. I ordered it from him. I actually ordered it overnight and all that stuff because it was pretty cheap to do that, and he did a great job getting it out to me. So yeah, anyways, my first samples have been done for a while now, so I'm going to copy these over real quick and I'll catch up with the rest of the notes, and then we'll talk about some other stuff. So what I have here, standard deviation of test 1 came out to not so great, 0.001167 with a max of, let's see, what was my max? My max was negative 0.053750, and my minimum was negative 0.05870. Okay. Interesting. All right, so I'm gonna run that again while we're talking here. And bring back up the chat. Let's see here. And didn't print it off. No, I didn't print off the manual. No, I know you didn't print off the manual. Maybe you should have though. Let's see. Speed 3, lift, speed 7 on tap. Speed 3, lift, speed 7 on tap. I don't know what I'm running right now on mine. I do know, and actually I don't want to say I had an epiphany, but I've had some conversations with some people that are smarter than I am about some of those specifics, because I was explaining to somebody, I actually had a Chinese commenter on my tap video tell me that they swapped out the magnet on the unit. There's a little magnet on here. Obviously there aren't, let me go back to the other camera here real quick. Let's see here. Actually, let's go to this one. I can just do it right here. So obviously there aren't magnets here on the side of this unit. The magnets actually, and I don't want to get too deep into this because like I said, I already did it and I have a video about it, but the magnet's actually back here in a little pocket. And what they're using is a decently strong magnet, and it is basically getting pulled into the rail for the MGN7. So there's no screw heads that it's attracted to. It's actually directly to the rail, which is kind of ingenious if you ask me. I think that's a very good way of doing that. But anyways, this gentleman, or I don't know if it was a woman or a man to be honest, but this person from China basically said that they replaced that little magnet with a stronger magnet and they saw a better response. So I had a conversation with somebody over at Chaotic Lab about this. They said it didn't make a difference because the magnet is more about the down than the up. And this is one of those things where I don't want to get into, you know, a blank match with somebody because I can totally see where that mindset comes from. But here's the thing, along with that mindset, my Stream Deck has an update. Along with that mindset, my mindset is when a tap works, and I don't know how many people on here have tap. That would be interesting to know if you're using tap or not, what your experiences are, or if you're using something else. But you have a whole chain of events that happens. So it's just like that with anything on a printer. So when the first thing of it is basically your nozzle touches the build surface or the plate or whatever it's touching. That causes the complete tool head to rise up a little bit, which basically engages a micro switch, whether it be an optical, brake switch, or in this case, a micro switch that's connected to an optical switch on the inside of it. Then it goes out to the controller and then it gets taken over with electrons and electronics. But the thing that kind of made sense to me is that with a stronger magnet, not only does it, help it stay up or down, but when it snaps, so when that nozzle touches the surface, how much does the nozzle actually have to push down, or how much does the actual tool head have to move before the magnets catch it and pull it the rest of the way to hit that switch? So for that reason, I think there may be something there with a stronger magnet, because if the magnet's stronger and it takes, you're right on the edge of that all the time, it's going to take less pressure down on your build surface for it to actually, actuate the switch, whatever type of switch you have, whether it be a clicky modification for your tap, or even if it's the optical version, because the magnets play a role in that. Not a huge role, but there's a role there. So I'm interested in that. I don't know about it, but we'll find out. So maybe there'll be a revision, maybe there won't. They seem to say it didn't matter, but I don't know. And I haven't found the magnets to do what the person was saying, so I haven't done it yet. Let's see here. And that plays, the reason why I brought that in, that plays into the speed and the lift speed and all that type of stuff, because there's always a delay with things. And you can definitely see, and it's not as bad as what you see when you look at your printer. If you have an LED light on your tap, you're going to see the lighting on that basically differ from when the actual activity is happening. And you start to wonder in your mind, how much is that playing into this? Because, we're dealing with very minute, amounts of distance here. So yeah, anyways. See, I got the original square probe until I get the printer built. Oh, the inductive probe. I was like, square probe? Going to switch to some fancy probe. I heard it allows you to do a really quick bed mesh. Oh, so you can get the bacon or the beacon. I'll talk about that in a second. I have an opinion, and again, when I say I have an opinion, it's an opinion. Make your own. A lot of these parts aren't overly expensive, so definitely try it. Doom's using a tap, cool. What do you think about the BTT, the Big Tree Tech? Know me for the Voron stealth burner. Let me go back and answer something, or talk about this square probe. So the inductive probe, there's nothing wrong with an inductive probe under normal circumstances. I actually like inductive probes. They got a bad name when people started using high temperature, hot ends. Specifically when people started using slice hot ends and they were actually mounting them backwards, which looks forward, but it's actually backwards. And they were getting too close to those inductive probes and they were melting them. Actually, the LDO kit now, if you buy one, comes with the inductive probe, but it has a piece of foil insulation that you can put over the inductive probe to protect it. My other Voron 2.4 that's in the background over here behind me, that's using an inductive probe. It's had the same inductive probe in it since I built it. It's never had an issue, but it's put together in the way that's supposed to be put together. So incredible. You know what? use the inductive probe. If you want to play with things, that's cool. Now on to the beacon, not the bacon. You could cook bacon on a printer, but the beacon probe, from what I understand, the beacon probe is very good for making a bed mesh, but it doesn't really do what you want it to do when we're talking about specifically what a tap's doing, where you have your Z. The benefit of a tap, more than anything else to me, is it's a certain level of insurance from basically crashing into your bed or causing damage to your bed surface or anything like that, because now your Z is directly, your Z is your nozzle. So as soon as you switch your home to your Z, it stops. So there's only so much pressure you're gonna put down on that unless there's something software wrong with your printer. In terms of doing the bed mesh, a lot's justifiable in terms of how many points you take. But if you have a decent bed and you're working the same type of plastics, your bed shouldn't change all that much from print to print. It's going to change a little bit, but it's not going to change that much. And having 1,000 points or 10,000 points or even 100 points on a printer, to me seems a little bit like overkill. I would say most people could do a bed mesh with 20 or so points, 24 points, and be perfectly fine with it. I think more importantly is having a proper bed surface, having a properly built printer, having a properly tuned printer. And then after that, if you want to play with things, then yeah, go ahead and get the bed mesh that's going to look at your whole printer. But the problem with that is you change your build plate, anything like that, it's a lot of information I don't think you need. It's really a lot. I don't know. Adaptive meshing, since we're talking about meshing, then we'll get back to the other thing here. Adaptive meshing is interesting. It's something I will be doing on here eventually, and basically that's where you bed mesh based on where you're printing. The good thing about that is you can basically focus those points directly on the area that you're going to be printing in. So as opposed to 20 mesh points on your whole build plate, you could do 20 mesh points in a, we'll say for this is a 300 by 300, but in a 150 by 150 area, which means that you've now upped the resolution for that. That makes a hell of a lot more sense to me than basically having 1,000 points of bed mesh over a whole printer. Doesn't really, for lack of better words, doesn't turn me on. Let's see here. Jeremy Todd, how we doing? I have the bacon on order, should hopefully ship next week. I'm excited to try it out. I'm excited for you to try it out too. And again, hopefully you join us here again at some point and you let us know how that worked out. Again, it's just like the CNC. I'm not against it, but I don't know a lot about it, and I'm not interested enough in it to actually jump on the ship and try it out as of yet. If somebody wanted to send me one to try out just to play with, I probably would, just to give you guys an opinion of it, but I don't think it's something I need on a printer. On the inductive probe, I actually wrap mine with aluminum foil tape that you use for duct working. That's fine. That's pretty much what LDO sends with the kit now. So that should work just fine. Have to do bacon calibration again when you change a sheet every time. Yeah, that's true. You got to calibration with everything. You should, at least, if you change your build surface. So getting back to that real quick, and sorry I get jumbled up. There's so much I want to say. You guys are great, by the way. The only negative I can say about the inductive probe is the inductive probe, for the most part, is looking at metal or ferrous metal more so. We'll see other metal too. We'll see aluminum and whatnot, but it will see ferrous metal most, and then basically the lesser the ferrous the material, the less flux that happens there, the less it will see it. So if you're using a build surface that's like glass or mirror build surface, something like that, it's never going to see the actual build surface. It's always going to see the build bed underneath that glass. If you're using, a surface that even like a PEI surface or something like that, where basically you have a coating on a surface, it's pretty tight, it's pretty smooth, it's textured, but it's not that bad. It's actually reading the metal underneath that surface. It's not actually reading the actual surface of it. And that actually goes for the beacon too. That's reading the metal, not the actual top surface of it. So that's something else to keep in mind. How precise do you need to be, really, when you're not even necessarily reading the actual top surface? All right, let me record this here. And part of the reason I want to record this is so it gives me something to do while you guys are filling up that chat again. This time we're at 0.0006, which is really decent. 0.006 for our standard deviation on the tap, with a max of 0.056250 and a minimum of negative 0.058750. Okay, and I'm going to restart that again. Another 30 samples to be done. And let me see here. Copy. Let's see here. All right, let me get back into my chat. Apologize for the blank space here, guys. Doing the best I can. What else did we have here? We had, oh, the Big Tree Tech. That's another thing I got mixed emotions on, the screens. So what we're talking about here, and let me switch over so people that don't know can know. Picking on cameras. So manufacturers now are making screens that can go right here into your stealth burners. And basically it's a display screen. It's a little really thin AOLED, organic LED screen that's programmable. And it can either show like temperature things and things like that. It's relatively neat and nice. I have no problem with that either. But what I would say is, if I was going to do that, and I do think it looks cool, is it adds a slight bit of extra weight, which isn't huge. I mean, it's really slight, so it's not big. It adds a little bit extra wiring. If you're using a CAN bus, it's relatively easy to add that in. But if I was doing that, I probably would forego having any other screens on my printer because I don't think you need them. Honestly, you don't really need a screen on a Clipper-based Voron printer if you have another method to control it. And I strongly suggest you have a web browser someplace or a Clipper screen or something to control it. But if I didn't have a screen on a printer, I would probably consider it. Outside of that, I kind of like the idea of having LEDs on my printer versus having a screen, because if you're printing at speed, it's going to be blurry. It's going to be hard to see that little thing. And if you're not printing at speed, it's going to be showing you information that you're probably not overly concerned about. It's 25 bucks or so, I think, maybe 30 bucks on Amazon. Let me see if I can find one real quick. Big Tree Tech. It is nothing I'm finding real quick. Yeah, so I think they're about 25 bucks. They are pretty neat. Maybe it's something we'll look at for the next printer build, or when I redo that printer over there. But for right now, I'm not sold on it. There's some things that I think are neat, but I'm not sold on. There's other things that I'm sold on that turn out not to be so neat. So that's one of those things that's kind of in between. I looked at them, I thought about them. I don't really want one on my printer just now. Not yet, right? And that one is done too. I'm really not keeping up with my my spreadsheet here. So apologize here. Let's do this, and then let me bring my chat back up, see if we're missing somebody or something. If not, I'm gonna start talking about something else. See, camp is nice. Yes, it is. Golden Jaguar always coming back with something to bring up, and we'll talk about that in a second. Let's see, Incredible DIY. If you put a screen where your fan opening is, how's the fan going to draw air? Need to get some air for the whole thing for the fan input. That's the other, I didn't mention that, but yes, that is true as well. I think there's some modifications to allow for that to happen, but no matter what, you're absolutely right. You're going to impede your fan from bringing in some air when you do that. It will probably also, on the positive side of things, reduce the amount of noise that fan is making, which is kind of nice. So you have that going for you. I'll see, and since I'm looking and you just popped this in. Speaking of screens, have a screen for the back wall of your printer that is output the video of the nozzle cam. That would be interesting. Yeah, it wouldn't be too hard to do either. There's so much you can do. I mean, I still got to put an ESP32 in this thing so I can have it do some home automation when it does printing too. There's a lot. See, Tomio, yeah, thank you for your time. No worries at all. Again, that's just an opinion. If you want to get one and play with it, by all means do it. Do some research. I'm sure there's some videos out there, people have put them in their printers. I don't have any problem with it whatsoever. There's some small minor things such as the airflow around it, but I'm pretty sure those things can be facilitated. I don't know that it's something I want, but there again, you know, these things are all printers that you manufacture based on what you want to put in them. There's a ton of stuff on this printer that I don't think people need. I mean, do I think you actually need 2 cameras or a nozzle cam even? No. Titanium backers are really, really, really like one of those things that people say for good prints you need. Do I believe that you need them for good prints? No, I don't. Do I think they might make it better? Maybe. That's why I put them on here. I'll find out. Take some time to do that. But just like everything else that you put on these printers, outside of the core parts, which are minimal, it's all extra stuff that you're doing because you want to do it. You know, until there's a lot of information about a part that somebody's done a lot of work with, or there's multiple, better than one person doing a lot is multiple people doing a moderate amount to me, because everybody's gonna have different conclusions on everything. So my conclusions, my thoughts are mine. I welcome everybody to come up with their own, and I also welcome everybody to share theirs. Yeah. Oh, Rich, thank you for that Discord hit again. Deviation this time is 0.00595. It's only getting better. 0.00? 0. Yeah, I missed a 0. And let's see, minimum is negative 0.055000. I don't know why I need those ones. And negative 0.5, oh, that's 257,500 for the min. Cool, okay, I'm gonna run that again. And let's put this over here. Give you something else to look at here for a moment. And let's see here. This one. So let's see here. That's a probe again, and this time we got 0.008. I'm gonna hammer out the last 4 and 5 of this real quick, just so I can get this done, so I'm not going back and forth. Let's see, maximum 0. And then I'm going to talk about some other stuff I got too. And then we'll be probably closing in on the end of this, probably another 20 minutes or so. So I hope everybody's still having a little bit of fun. It's actually raining outside like you wouldn't believe. I can hear it from the basement down where I'm at right now. I am actually in a basement, if people don't know that. Anyway, let's run that again. Sounds like a tap dancer standing next to me over here. Very slow tap dancer. And let's grab this last number as soon as it's done. I can be done with doing this. I did want to do this kind of live, so I had some type of reference point that, you know, I'm not trying to cover anything up. I'm just recording data. Let's see here, and then maximum was this. Paste values, and then minimum was this. Copy and paste values. There we go. All right, cool. All right, get away with that. Come back over here. So one of the other things I've been working on, and I'm going to go more in depth on this in a video relatively soon. I'm going to get back into some of the Clipper videos here. I got probably 2 or 3 more to do of those. Hopefully, if people are watching those, they're at least entertaining, right? They're either going to be educational and informative, or if you know way more than I do, they are probably at least entertaining. So if you haven't seen those and you want to go watch them, they're on my channel. But what I've been working on is a specific macro for my printer. And it is a scrubber macro. I keep picking the wrong camera. So I didn't know what to do for a scrubber macro originally, so I started looking at them, and most of the scrubber macros, basically what they do is they move the nozzle, the warm nozzle, over a brush, and they go back and forth, which is cool and all, but the problem I had with it, and again, I'm gonna put a whole video out about this, and actually go through the lines of code and talk about how they work, is that gets the side-to-side motion on the scrubber. It's gonna get some of the front stuff too, because it's a bristled brush, but I do want to show you guys this. I got a clean nozzle and a deep clean nozzle, and these are actually on my Git right now working if you want to look at them, but I'm gonna hit my deep clean right now with the camera there on the printer, and it's gonna raise up, it's gonna go to the back, and what it's doing is it's actually scrubbing back and forth in all the directions. I don't know why everybody's don't do this, and maybe there are other ones that do it. I'm not saying I'm the first to do it, but this makes way more sense. So that is going to be on one of my next videos when I talk about Clipper. We're going to go through that code line by line, talk about why it works, how it works, and why I did it. And it's also going to be, that code's actually on my Git right now. And again, I will leave that in the comments. And unless Rich, I think I sent you a link to that the other day. If you want to pop that in there too, I have no problem if you want to do that if you have time. And if you don't, that's not an issue either. But basically, I'll run that one more time if you weren't watching and you were just listening. This is the deep clean version. The deep clean version basically does it 30 repetition versus 5 repetition for the normal clean. You'd use deep clean if you're using TPU or PETG or something, a stickier plastic. And then if you're doing this PLA or something like that, you just probably need to use the normal one. Or if you have a really dirty nozzle or something like that. But anyways, I thought it was pretty cool. Figured I'd share it right now. You guys are the first to see it. You guys are my home base, if you will, because you're here with me right now. We're chatting, we're hanging out, we're chilling. That's coming up soon. Let's see, comments again. Let's see here. What does, with a bed mesh, does that adjust the printer with knowing the nozzle is close to the bed and further away all over? It extrapolates the rest of the bed based on the points that it gets. So if you have something like a beacon, I want to say bacon. If you have something like a beacon, basically it's taking more reference points of the whole surface. It's pretty much taking a picture of the surface, and it's using that information to kind of internally in Clipper adjust how close the Z-axis is to the bed at any one given point during the print, depending on where it is on the bed. If you're using a normal bed mesh, what it does is basically it draws 2 lines and then makes 2 points, and it draws a line between those 2 points. So the closer your points are, the more precise those lines will be actual to the surface. But again, you only need to get so close because you always want at least a little bit of smush on that bed anyways. And if your bed's that far out of whack, or if your bed's that far warped, no matter how good your bed mesh is, if you have a very warped bed, it's never going to be flat on the bottom, because the bottom of your print is going to be whatever your bed surface is. It's going to follow the contours of that bed, but if you take that print and put it on a flat surface, it's going to have a wobble to it because it can't be flat because your bed's not flat. So it helps get you better adhesion to your bed, but it's not going to fix a bottom of a print not being flat. Basically what it comes down to. Marlin does a zigzag, but that is awesome. Cool. It makes sense. I haven't played with Marlin in a long time. I stopped playing with Marlin the last time I opened up Microsoft Visual Studio. I got sick of playing with Visual Studio, so I got sick of playing with Marlin. Marlin's very good. I have more interest in RepRap than I do in Marlin by a long shot. Let's see here. Sometimes I'm really stupid. Hey, join the club. I'm usually stupid. Gold Jaguar, thank you. I'm glad you do like that. Again, I'll share it with you. I'll put in the description, or if you hit me up, I'll send it to you. You can look at it. You'll totally get it. Let's see here. Nice week for a deep clean. Thank you. Outstanding. Thank you. Nice. I like that. Again, I'll put a link to it in the comments, and it'll give you, and if you follow along, if you download the file, if you're new to, making your own macros and things like that, and you're interested in, learning a little bit more about what's behind the printer, or within the printer, the soul of the printer, If you download the file and you have it when you watch the video, you'll be able to kind of follow along a little bit better. Just saying. Did you write the code? Did you write the G code for the cleaning? Yes. That's what the deep clean, that's what the nozzle brush cleaning was, is for the cleaning. Maybe I'm not reading that right. Let me know. All right, so there's this, that, and the other thing. And where else was I going to go? Oh, does that go in the startup G code? It can go where, so, okay, so I had a conversation with Rich, the first lady the other day, about Super Slicer. And yes, you could put it in your start code if you wanted to. What I would suggest you do is in long term, what I would suggest is that type of code goes into or gets called on, basically the macro gets called on in your startup code, but specifically in your slicer. I can, personally, I think what I'm aiming towards eventually, and I'll share as I go along, but basically, different filaments, I think you should use different cleaning methods and different amounts of cleaning. PLA doesn't tend to stick very much to the nozzle as long as you're printing at the proper temperature and you're not making a mess. But there are, like I said, PETG is extremely sticky to itself. So if you get a little PETG on your nozzle, it will start to crystallize on your nozzle. You have a black goo on your nozzle in no time at all. So that one should be cleaned like pretty well. So if you have a slicer that allows you to add modification code to your filament profiles or your print profiles, I think that would be the absolute best way to call upon the macro. Outside of that, yes, it would go into your start code for your printer. I would also possibly suggest it goes into the end code for your printer. That way when you park your print head and everything's there, it's relatively clean. I would probably, off the cuff, say you'd run a normal clean cycle at the beginning and a normal clean cycle at the end. That's a quick and dirty answer to that, or clean answer to that, right? Let's see here. LED lights in the channels of the frame extrusions, more ultimate. LED lights in channels of the frame extrusions, more ultimate. So not quite sure exactly. That's LDO kit stuff at the top talking about in the extrusions on the rest of the printer. I'm not going to be doing that because I'm actually going to be side lighting my panels that are etched with my logo. I actually was talking to Chris the other day. I've been playing with that a little bit on the side. I don't have any of it out here, but basically playing with multicolor LEDs because NeoPixels are great, but there are plenty of LEDs that do multiple colors. Usually they are three-pronged. So what I'm playing with is an idea of being able to basically light the logo, my Build It Basement logo, based on where it is in the up and down axis, the Z axis of the logo. So I could make like the top and bottom white and the middle section blue, or vice versa, which is where the additional lighting is going to come from the printer. Currently I have top lighting on it and I have the stealth burner lighting on it, and I think that's enough lighting for me. Let's see here. I'm saying you can add LED lights in the channels. Yes, I could. Yep, it's pretty easy to do too. Now, you know, one thing I did think about doing, and let me get back over to the wrong camera. Yes, the wrong camera. Is I did think about, move this camera a little bit. I did think about, and I think this would be a cool idea. Let me know what you guys think. I did think about on the front, and there'll be hinges here that will be covering up some of them. But basically on the front here, with a little G-code magic and the right strips, the right addressable strips, I can make the front, the flankings, the left and right flankings of the front doors with strips that basically can tell me either on one side how hot the printer is based on how high up this goes. You know, like 60 would be around the middle, 100 would be, you know, up from there, and then like 200, or actually would never go 200. I'm thinking about bed temps. 60, 100, maybe 130 would be the hottest I'd ever go on a printer bed if I had the proper thermal fuse, which I do, but just saying. You know, that would be cool. And then on the other side, camera's not showing over there, but on the other side had the same thing, but have a progress meter as to how far along it is. So basically we'd have to write some G code, and I'm still learning myself, but basically some variable G code that looks at how many levels or how many layers are in a print. and then basically takes those layers, divides it out by the segment quantity that we have on the side here. And then basically you have a build meter here. So basically, 10%, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 on up based on what you have. I think that'd be kind of cool. So maybe that's actually a really good idea. I'm glad we came up with it. Go team. Let's see here. Yes, I think it's a good idea. I have not played with CAN bus yet. I have all the CAN bus stuff. I have CAN bus stuff from everybody, and this printer is not using CAN bus. I've said it 1,000 times, 1,001 now. The new printer that we're building, or not building, that we're rebuilding, my other 2.4 here, that will have CAN bus in it. I did not want to do it in this printer. That's another one of those things that I'm on the fence on, but I'm going to do it on my other printer because I'm kind of reaching that threshold where I'm getting over that. So, yeah. Progress meter on the top horizontal rail. Sure. Fabrico LDO kit, KB3D parts get here Monday. Now Amazon filament won't get here today, sometime next week. Dang, I can't win with all the shipping companies. They told you today, it should be there today. Maybe they'll give you a $3 credit. I like to do that. Yeah, you're not the only one, Run, that's having issues with that. I was talking to, if any of you guys don't know, the Poor Boy channel, but if you haven't, check it out. Just do a search on YouTube, Poor Boy channel. He's been having issues as well. He's actually ordered some stuff from Fabrico. He's down in the south near where you are, and he's been waiting a lot longer than he normally would have for parts. So I think there's something going on down there. I don't know what the weather is, but something's going on. How many printers do I have? Currently in the shop, I have 4 printers. I have owned 6 printers in total. Right now I have a Voron 0, a 2.4 R1, a 2.4 R2, and an Ender 5 in here. I've had some other printers too. That idea of temp indicator would be pretty neat if the door was etched with reference numbers. Ooh! Then it's a full temp scale. That is not a bad idea. I might have to hit Chris up for that. You know, another thing I've been thinking about, and I'll take you guys' 2 cents, is replacing, I don't know about you guys, and I don't know how many of you guys have printers that you've had for a while, but the plastic panels on these over time tend to get a little dinged up a little bit. They get scratched because they're made of plastic. I was contemplating, and I might be crazy, and it would add a ton of weight to the printer, and I think you know where I'm going with this, but doing actual glass, like a smoked glass. I think it's a little cray-cray, but aren't we all just a little cray-cray? What do you guys think of that? Let's see here. The world would go, where would you go? Local store and get things, all gone. I know. Yep. Yes. Okay, so we talked about that. What else did I want to talk about with you guys today before we end this out? We talked about having parts on hand. We talked about printer. We're not going to do a complete overview of the printer. We talked about my NeoPixel issue that I think other people have. We talked about my scrubber profile. I'm going to put a comment down below eventually with the Git information so you guys can do that. You guys enjoying the Clipper videos? I don't know if you're watching them or not, but I mean, again, quite a few views. They're there basically as basic Clipper videos. They're not there to teach you how to do everything, but they're just like first steps type of things. I want to get away from the build a little bit, and then lately I've been doing a little bit of other videos to get away from the Clipper for a while. I get, honestly, between you and I get a little bit bored doing the same stuff over and over again, so I don't want to continue to do Clipper videos for a long period of time, but I do need to do a couple more of those. So I got a pile of stuff in front of me real quick because I think there's a lot of new people to the hobby. And one of the other questions I get frequently via email, not necessarily a comment on a video, because I think people are a little bit embarrassed to ask some of these questions sometimes. But the question is, you know, what tools do you use and what tools do people not think of telling people they need when they are working with printers? And I just want to quickly go over that. We already talked about crimpers real quick. If you're building a kit from scratch, which I honestly have not done a complete BOM source myself, but tap and dies, I would say something you definitely want to do. KB3D is where I got these ones. I keep them in a bag because frankly I haven't used them much. But even if you do buy a kit, there's a decent enough possibility that you're going to have a hole that's not properly 100% all the way through. So having a tap and die kit is good to have. Some very small flush cuts. Those are good to have, sometimes referred to as flush cuts, sometimes referred to as dikes. These are good to have. A decent set of drivers, just basic drivers. Let's see if we can get that to focus. Basic drivers, a full set of those is good to have. A set of T-drivers is nice to have, mostly for the frame. So you can get a little bit extra torque on that. You know, none of these screws are very large for the most part. 5 mils is usually the biggest you go. I probably say you never want to use this end and give it a good twist that way, but those do make things go, especially when you're taking things and put them in. You can twist that real quick. I'm sure you've seen people do that. Short of that, I actually like those better, but a decent driver, just for when you're putting a bunch of screws in. Do not trust this to put your final tightenings on your screws. You're going to want to do it by hand, but that's good to get them in 99% of the way. A decent pair of strippers that go down, let's see, these ones go down to 30 gauge, but some that goes down to 26, 24, 28. Sometimes you got to go a little bit deeper than what the actual gauge of the wire is, maybe because the wire's not exactly on par, but sometimes you don't get enough, and sometimes it's just hard to strip wires if you don't have something that strips properly. These, you're probably better off trying to source online or something like that. Don't go to Home Depot and Lowe's to try to buy strippers that will do down to 24, 28 gauge wire. I don't think they have much of a selection, and you can buy these on like Amazon for, you know, probably 12 bucks or so. X-Acto knife is good to have, and that also couples with having a scraper or a cleaning tool to clean the edges of prints. And then my most obscure part that I always talk to people about is a kitchen sink, some dish detergent, warm water, and a 3M scrub pad. You should have some 3M scrub pads. And what I do on any new build surface, doesn't matter how pretty it is, how nice it is, how new it is I take them up to the kitchen sink, I put dish soap on them, I give them a good scrub, and then basically I take a green scrubber pad, just like this one. I bought these in big sheets and I just cut them up in small pads so I can chuck them. And lightly, I'm not bearing into it, but lightly give it a good scrub over the whole surface. It will get rid of any oils from manufacturing. It will make that surface just a little bit more bindable. And if you're having issues getting your prints to stick to that surface, that's kind of one of those things I always go to. So in a nutshell, those are the primary tools you're gonna need. I'd also suggest a soldering iron, you know, a heat gun, some other things like that. But for hand tools, things like that, people always asking, there's a quick rundown. All right, what do we got left here for another minute before we clean this up? So if you do have some hellos, goodbyes, and farewells, we're gonna be over in the Discord for a few minutes. Rich is already over there, I'm sure. Oh, let's see. No, he's heading out to dinner with his wife. I guess not. Well, I will be there for a few minutes, but you guys can chat too, right? Let's see here. Tempered glass would be great. Yes, I agree. Awesome. I can buy diddly local. Yes, I can't buy much in town either. I think, you know, unless you live in a big city center or someplace near a specialty store that deals with 3D printers, you're not going to be able to find much stuff. Good luck lifting the glass enclosed monster. I totally agree with that. That's the one issue. But on a printer like this, a 300 or a 350, you're probably not going to move it around all that much anyways. Clipper, yes. Tools, I know. Pi, I know. Clipper equals noob. Perfect. Okay, so we're right on par for what you need. That's what I want. Your description. Live stream, go what you need. Voron 2 to talk about happened the past couple of weeks. Testing my tap, CNC Tap video coming out soon. Talk about my summer plans. So summer plans, I haven't hit that one. Thank you for giving my description back. I don't know if I'm trying to point something out. My summer plans are basically going to be still doing about one video a week unless I'm not in town, if I go someplace or if I'm doing something. We're going to finish up this printer probably to the 90 percentile point. We're gonna have panels on it. Software is gonna be done. We're gonna be printing with it, and that will be it for that one. I'm going to continue to do smaller videos about additional additions I'm doing to the printer, or about the sourcing and the changes we're going to do with the new printer. Once we get a little bit further during the summer, if anything comes up during the summer, obviously I'll probably do something with that. But my plan is basically to keep things even keel on the summer. And all honesty, videos as well as viewership, as well as people's interest tends to wane a little bit during the warmer months here in the United States. So I'm not going to put a ton of effort into building a ton of content, but I do plan on still hanging out with you guys. So the videos might go to just hangout sessions where I'm doing stuff during those. I do plan, and I will, it's not a plan, I will, towards the latter part of summer, towards the early part of fall, start working on the rebuild of the other 2.4. That's going to be a teardown rebuild. I think both parts of that are going to be fun. The teardown part is going to be fun because we're going to see what parts are wearing, what parts need to be replaced, what parts need to be lubricated. It's going to be kind of a maintenance series telling you basically what to look for on your printer. Now that you've built one, what do you need to do? And I'm going to give some opinions on how often you should probably do some of those things. That printer over there probably has about 2,500 or so hours on it. So it's got a decent amount of time on it, and there's some things that need to be maintained on it. So that's going to be that. I do plan on doing another print build series probably later. Once we get done with that, that's probably going to be from late fall to around Christmas time. And then if I've been a nice person all year long and Santa brings me a gift to build, we will do another build. If you guys want to leave comments on this video as to what you'd like to see me build in the fall, I'm more than happy to have that. But that's going to be, again, after the rebuild of that 2.4. Which hopefully we'll have some fun stuff in there, like I think I'm definitely going to go with a tap again. I think we're going to go with a CAN bus on that one. I don't know what else we're going to do with it, but we'll do some stuff. Trust me, we'll do some stuff. It'll be, you know, over the course of these live streams during the summer, we'll come up with a good list. Hopefully you guys work with me on that list because I want to build something you guys want to see. So yeah, that's the summer plan. So now we've done everything that was on that list. Let's see here. Have a good dinner, Rich. Yes, time for bacon, eggs, dinner, and grits. You're a southerner. Octo everywhere for Clipper. Yeah, we could work with that. Have all a great rest of your weekend. Another great video. Ta-ta for now. Awesome. All right, Run and Dune and Woody and Jose and everybody else on here that I didn't mention. Again, I truly appreciate you guys coming by and hanging out with me for a little while. You know, I'm going to have some more videos coming out specifically with that scrub. That's going to be one of the Clipper videos and a couple other things, just kind of going into some basics of the macros and how to make your own macros and why you'd want to make your own macros. And then we're going to get back on some more mechanical stuff here. We're going to get the tap on there. We're going to do a comparison video of the tap. And then finally, we're going to do some live printing. I'm going to show everybody how to go about getting your serial number. Super simple. And then we're going to throw the panels on this thing and have some fun. So, Jose is leaving. See you, Karen. Thanks for stream. Hope to see your macros soon. Yes, Bob. Thanks. No worries at all, Bob. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to say farewell now, I guess. And again, if you guys have questions, leave them in the comments. And Tomio, good night to you as well. And I will see you soon. Again, appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.